All right, everyone, welcome back to the 10P DC podcast. And today we have a very special episode for you guys. It is going to be our first episode of On the Mats. Now, the Mats is going to be our series that we're going to be coming out with, talking about the Mats, our business that we have in conjunction with the 10th Planet Daily City School. So the Mats consists of me and my partner, Joe Coffin, who teach services with martial arts, yoga, sound healing, and others services that we offer with other collaborators. And again, this is going to be a good way for you to be introduced to the business and understand the roots of our business. And again, the Mats is one of those businesses I started when I was before I was even a 10th Planet School or had a 10th Planet School. And again, it was working with my good friend Joe Coffin. And in this episode, we're going to interview Joe. We're going to get to know him and a little bit about our relationship. And I'm telling you, Joe has been one of the guys that I've learned so much before in my life. He's guided me in so many different ways. He's my Yoda in a sense, in a lot of ways. We do a lot of things together when it just comes to business decisions and when it comes to the day-to-day operations. And he's been really helpful with building this whole group and this whole business. So I'm super excited for you guys to get to know Joe. And again, if you have questions, comments, or anything you guys want me to ask Joe, feel free to leave them in the YouTube video. And make sure you guys check out 10pdc.com for info on training. Hope you guys like the episode. We'll see you on the Mats. All right, everyone, welcome back to the 10P DC podcast. I am Coach Gino here with Mark, our trusty cameraman. And today we got a special guest. We are doing our first episode on the Mats. And the Mats is the business that I've been running as simultaneously as 10th Planet Daily City has been operating. And I got my business partner, Joe Coffin here. Joe, why don't you give everyone a hi?
Hey, Gino. How are you today?
So again, Joe's first time on the podcast, so we definitely want to make some introductions on this very important role in the Mats and my vital partner in this whole operation. You know, Joe and I started the Mats in 2015 officially, right? Yeah. But what year did we meet, Joe? It was probably got to be 2002 or 3 or something like that.
It's quite a while ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was a long time where we met in actually a retreat, a church retreat, you know, and it was never a conversation in the beginning of operating a business. It was never about like starting anything where it was about a career. I was a kid, you know, I was barely young enough to even think about going into a career path, you know, and Joe already was established and doing living at that time. Joe, when you first met me, your work was mainly just doing the
So I was in finance.
that time. Gotcha.
And then we were both going to the same church. I was working in the confirmation program.
Right.
You were going to confirmation. And at that point, once you graduated from confirmation, you came back and started working retreats.
That's right.
We were working retreats together.
Yeah, and I think during that time working together retreats, we really got to know each other. We spent a lot of time planning, going on retreats, really trying to service our community because we really love that part of it, right? I think me and you both love offering our services and you know, just offering what we know and what we can help and assist with whenever it talks about like helping people, right? And we saw that opportunity with those retreats. You know, over time, you know, it was harder for us to continue that portion of it. I obviously grew out of high school and I grew out of my adolescent years, went to college. Joe, you started transitioning into another part in your career. No longer were working with finance. You started and you had a big life change, right? You adopted Tony, your son, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that was a huge commitment for both of us to change. So, you know, life happened. I think over the years, we continue to stay in contact. And then as I began to shift into like going into my adulthood and thinking about really I needed to focus in on a career, Joe you were always there to give me some advice, to always just kind of give me some wisdom that you've got along the way and that you've been able to share with me. And I always appreciated that. You know, it was always something that I needed as a young man who was just trying to find my way in the world, right? And again, this was a very interesting time when I got to about 25, 26. I was at a turning point in my life where I had to really settle down and figure out what I was going to do for my career, because it was like college was over, school was over, and I was working as a security guard. I wasn't really doing much to have a really focused career path. But Joe, besides even just seeing that I was struggling there, he was doing his own thing with his own retreats, his own mini retreats in Zion, right? And that was something that was huge. So Joe, why don't you tell him about what happens over there in Zion as far as your like experience going there and like what it gives you and you know provides for you.
So in 20 I'm sorry, 2007, 2008, we adopted Tony. Mm-hmm. And it was shortly after that we found out that he had autism. Mm-hmm. Right. And a year later from that, going into 2009, I retired from my job and started working full time. And part of what I wanted to do was to get him back to Minnesota to meet my family, but I didn't know how he was going to do on a plane. Right. And so one of my friends suggested, why don't we meet up in Zion? And that was like an hour flight out of SFO. I figured if worst came to worst, he and I would hide out in the bathroom.
Yeah, hour's not too bad. Right.
We'd get through it. Mm-hmm. But we got up to Zion, and Tony just did amazing up there in the waters. Mm-hmm. And just had such an incredible time that we committed to going back there every year. Mm-hmm. But part of that was making sure where we went in Zion was going to be safe for him. Right. That's one of the things about Zion is that there's some pretty dangerous canyons there. Yeah. And canyoneering is not necessarily, that's a whole other.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not for the faint of heart, right? For sure. Those, I as far as height wise, how far up are we going, Joe, on these mountains sometimes? It's
well, for us, like when we went through Mystery Canyon, mm-hmm. We had roughly like 1,000-foot descent that we were hiking mm-hmm. down mm-hmm. before we got to some of those rappels, of which the two longest were 100 and 110 feet.
Yeah, so it was no joke, right? I think when you first offered me to come with you on retreat, mm-hmm. it was nowhere in my imagination that it would be like this. Most of the retreats we did when I was a kid was, we would go to a real small like beach area, or maybe in the Redwood Glen area. Nothing where we were doing extreme heights. But when you talked about Zion, and you even talked about us having to train for it, going, getting ready for it, learning the rappelling and learning how to go off and up and like into those high heights and like coming down and rappelling off those, it was pretty intense. So I think when I got the offer, I was still unsure, right? But again, I didn't have anything going on that was really worth my time. And I was like, okay, I've always trusted Joe. I've always thought that his input and his time and his wisdom was always helpful to me. And at that point, like I said, I really needed some guidance. So I was like, let's go, right? Let's go on this tour or this trip. And again, we took the flight over to Vegas, drove up to Utah, went to Zion, Mount Zion. And I was like, my jaw dropped when I was up there. It was just such a beautiful sight, such an amazing time. And at that point, again, it was not an intention for me to go up with you to soul search about my career or anything like that. It was really just like a friend inviting a friend, let's go up and you want to try this out. I think you had initially had no one to go with, right? And then eventually you were able to find me and then David as well, right? David, yes. Another guest of ours. We all three of us went up there and had a great time. And it was during that time of, hiking, going up these long days, like going up those miles, up those hills, where we had to conversate about things. We had no internet. We had no, any kind of big type of electronic devices to distract us. It was us, the mountain, maybe a little bit of music, and that's it. So when we got to conversating, initially, Joe, you knew I was trying to initially find a career in music when I was in LA. And it just wasn't working. I wasn't getting paid. I wasn't having any type of success that really would make it worthy for me to pursue this and continue. So I really was unsure about going into mixed martial arts and going into, martial arts in general, right? And, knowing you all these years, we never spoke about my martial arts, habits and routines and my obsession more so with martial arts, right? But you drew that out of me, like with the conversations. You were like, if it's not music, what else, right? What else would you do, right? And I was like, well, probably this, Joe. And I was a little intimidated to tell you, Joe, because I was like, I don't want Joe to think I'm like a savage, crazy, like insane person, like, because I would never expect Joe to understand mixed martial arts fighting, right? Fighting in general, right? You've always been a very peaceful, very loving, very, calm, demeanored person. And I was just like, I just can't tell Joe this. But, you drew it out. And I was like, this is it. And, I didn't anticipate for us to have that conversation for you to realize how important it was to me, right? I just felt like it was just okay thing. Like, yeah, it's great. That's good. Keep going. Like, and that's all I anticipated for that interaction. But then you went out of your way to actually look up my fights, right? And actually watch my fights. And after that, I was like, oh man, you were able to watch them, like, because my mother, like for example, we couldn't even watch some of the activity or the fights I do, and her and my dad would just like definitely like give me like scoldings, like, oh, stop doing this, you can't do this, right? And then when you told me you watched it, I was anticipating the same type of thing, like, Gino, you shouldn't be doing this. This isn't the thing. This is too dangerous. This is yada yada, right? But it was total opposite. It was an encouragement. It was like, you seem to really love this. You seem to really have a passion for this, and I see that you actually care about this more than anything else right now, right? And I appreciated that so much. It was like just that alone was like some solace for me in like the whole time I've been competing. I competed most of my 20s in secret, from not telling my family, maybe a few people, maybe some of my close friends, but not telling my close family and the folks who I really cared about. And then you really pushed, like, you have to tell them, like you were like adamant, like you got to go home. We made that point as after we got out of Zion, like, go home. You sit down with your parents, you talk to them, and you tell them how you feel. Tell them everything, don't hide nothing, and try to make it like transparent with them what you're feeling. And I was like, okay, I'll try, And I was anticipating the same thing. I was anticipating, whatever, you went there, but don't do this no more. But once I really got down to expressing myself fully and really showing my parents and the folks around me that this is something I really cared about, they understood, right? And I think that was the biggest key, is not just showing them what I do, but why I do it, telling them why I do it, right? And that was the biggest incentive for me. And that changed my whole life trajectory, right? Being able to say, all right, this is me, this is what I do, this is what I love, and not hiding away from that, right? And not trying to shy away from that. So, I mean, when we were out there, what was your first impression when you, again, from your perspective, when I told you about this like mixed martial arts type of lifestyle I was having? Like, what was the real reaction in your head when you thought about it?
Well, actually, I remember that moment as if it were yesterday. Mm-hmm. I could put us sitting, I can tell you which canyon we were going into.
Right.
The fact that we started out really early that morning. We had a full day ahead of us.
Yeah.
We had just come down the downside probably at about noon, and we're stopping for lunch. Mm-hmm. And we started talking. And you started talking so passionately about what you had been through in LA. Mm-hmm. And what I also remember about that time is that time just kind of stood still.
Right.
And the next thing I knew, it was like 3
Yeah,
o'clock.
The day was gone.
And we both looked at each other going, oh my gosh, there's no way that we're going to be able to make through, that canyon. Yeah. We're just going to have to go back from where we are. Mm-hmm. But in that conversation, one of the things Gino understands about me, and I don't really try to question this a whole lot, is there are moments in my life where it's like the universe just speaks and you kind of listen, mm-hmm. and you understand that there's something that you're supposed to do. And right. I had no idea where all of that was going to go, other than I knew he and I were going to start a business together.
Yeah.
Which was really interesting.
Yeah.
And sure. As we came back, I was like, yeah, I got to look up these fights. I had no idea that you had been involved in this. Mm-hmm. And it was very interesting to see that by keeping it a secret, that had really kind of eaten away at you.
Yeah, definitely.
And like you wanted to share this, but it was that passion that you had that really just ignited this fire. Mm-hmm. And where I kind of, you need to start telling people.
Right. So, we come back home, right? Get back to the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And then I tell my folks, I tell my friends, and then it's like, that's enough already for me. Like the fact that conversation was such a pivotal moment in my life that I was so content that I at least was able to get this weight off my shoulder. But then you come in and say, hey, what do you think about starting something and making this a reality, right? I think you talked about it like, you could quit your job in security if you really went into this full-fledged. And I was like, no way. There's like, no way. I'm not a professional fighter. I haven't achieved anything in the sport. I know black belts, guys, legends in the sport. I have no business. I know that's the first reaction. I was like, I can't. And it's like, that's the first initial feeling, like denial, right? But it's the encouragement that you had. It was the assurity that you had with, like, I've done the business stuff. I know the finances. I know the stuff that we can do to make this happen. It may not happen immediately, but if that's a goal, we can work toward it. And that really gave me another perspective, like, okay, maybe I can't just jump in and do everything, but why don't we try to just go that way, right? Let's just see and how it goes, right? I remember the first time we even made the purchase for the mats, right? And like in the beginning, it was such a surreal feeling, right? Like, okay, we're really measuring the room, and Joe's really deciding to put these mats up in the wall. When the mats came off the truck, I'm like, these are really here. Like, Joe actually went out his way, invested in this, and helped us make it. You made that first investment for these mats, and that was everything, right? I finally had a space where I can train people that was mine. That was not something I was taking and sharing with, or it was ours, I should say, right? Because it was a shared space. I was in your garage, literally, and I was training Tony, your son. The first client I had was Tony, right? And it all kind of lined up. Tony taught me so much about teaching and so much about what it takes to teach someone with a learning disability, someone who's not having the ability to learn as I'm used to teaching. And again, that really gave me perspective on, if I can work with Tony, I can work with anyone, right? I can work with any skill set. I can work with any level. And again, that was such an important time, is those first few years when we were in the garage, and it was just a weekend thing, right? I was still coming back and forth from the North Bay in Santa Rosa, and I was just coming in the weekends to do a little bit, right? Over time, the clients built up. Over time, people started coming in. Over time, I moved back to San Francisco, and I found another security job closer, and I was able to train people on weekdays. The weekdays started getting filled up. And then the moment happened where, like, hey, I think we need to go and find another space. We're like, this is not going to work if we continue to be here. So then the search began for a spot, right?
Yeah.
I think that was the thing, is like, when we were searching, I was still working, and you were still, at that time, Joe, you were still just full time with Tony, and you weren't really working the finance job anymore, but you still had your other businesses, right? So again, we were still kind of open to the possibilities of, getting a space and really investing our time in there. And then lo and behold, my cousin tells me that this place is open in Daly City, right? So it's the place is, of course, the legendary Ralph Castro Karate Studio that I've known since growing up, because this place has been here forever, and we all drive by it. And then I was like, amazing, that would be a great opportunity. Initially, we didn't think it would work out, right? Because we weren't under the impression that they would just allow another team to come in and do their thing. But slowly, we made introductions. We came in. We told them what we were about. We told them our vision and our goals. Slowly, we built that trust with the relationship with Vince, with Marco, with all the guys here, and the Fire in the Ring team and all that stuff. And we eventually were able to open our services up here, right? Yeah. And at that time, there was no even meditation services that you were doing, right? It was maybe a little bit, but it wasn't anything major, right?
Right. I was going to say most of the sound healing that I did was actually over at the church.
Right. Oh, yeah, at St. Andrews, right.
From the church, we spent a year there, and then we moved over to Sangha and did some sound healing.
Sangha Yoga Studios. Shout out to Sangha.
Yeah.
Great place for hot yoga.
Jamies. Yep.
The Jamies. Shout out to the Jamies. So, backtracking a little bit as to the whole business model, right? I think what we agreed upon when we made the business was I would do the martial arts side, and that you would help with meditation services, right? Stuff that would help. I think we both agreed that this sport is very mental. This sport is super mental, emotional, spiritual, and a lot of levels, right? And I think it's important, me, myself included, is to have some kind of base, some foundation, some roots in my mental, spiritual, and emotional practices so that I can get myself to perform at the high level. And I pass that on to my students, right? It's not just about the movements we do. It's about how you carry yourself and how you think about yourself, right? And how you feel. So we knew that coming in that, hey, if we did a service, I would be able to come in and teach my martial arts disciplines, share my wisdom, and also find those who maybe didn't want to go full-fledged into that type of lifestyle, physicality, and working into that, and folks who need another approach to their health, right? To the mental side of it. And, the meditation was huge. Your sound healing was, you began your sound healing journey when, Joe?
So again, that kind of ties back with Tony. And maybe just to back up briefly, even in our initial conversation, we talked about the importance of the roots of martial arts, that having movement and stillness were two really important keys, that if you have that balance, right, you're taking care of your body in that way. Time to exercise, but also time to rest and recover. So getting back to the tie-in with Tony, that my time of retreat and Zion, even though he and I were going there, was starting to change. And I found myself going over to the Hawaiian Islands. I had a friend over there, and she had called me up one day and said, "Oh, I know that you're coming, but I just went to this sound healing. You got to contact these folks." So my shout out is to the Black Swan Temple, to Heather and Donnie, and to thank them, because I reached out to them and they said, "Well, interestingly enough, we're going to be in California before you're going to be in Hawaii. So why don't you come and visit us?" And unfortunately, where they were going to be was far north and then far south. So is there any chance that, you're going to be coming through? Would you like to have a sound healing here at the house? And so they came, stayed with us. They had a sound healing at the house that night. And I was just amazed. Tony, who had a very hard time sitting still, sat through a half hour, just relaxed, calm, enjoying the music. When he heard some other family members come home, he was like, "Okay, it's time for me to go down with them." But I was able to finish, the last half hour, 45 minutes of the sound healing. And then we got to talk afterwards, and I got to hear more about the program that they have there at the Black Swan Temple, their mystery school. And the life of a mystic really resonated with me, and okay, sign me up. So I spent 2 years in novitiate with them, and was ordained a minister afterwards. And at that point,
took off.
The journey in not only sound healing but energy healing, through Reiki. It's just been amazing. It's quite an adventure.
And you've leaned into that a lot, in the last few years, right? It's been your main focus of your service, right? And we talked about our service before of, we would do a lot of things before where it was kind of I guess it was a collaborative effect, and we were working, in a somewhat of a leadership form, right? So when we did retreats before, but now this is a soul leadership in a sense where you're the lead of this program of that we offer here at the Mats, and you're kind of overseeing, which now has extended into yoga, which has extended into our other offerings here, our services, right? Which help, I feel, balance out the intensity of martial arts, right? And I think that's been a key component for us, right? The balance of everything, right? We've known that, hey, I want to have a stable of fighters. I want to have people competing. I want to have that level where people can come and learn the martial arts. And at the same time, we want people to come and find a place of peace, of stillness, of a place where they can still come and feel safe and not have to feel like they need to, again, be a certain way or not. They can come as they are. They can come in and they can, receive these services that we're offering and still be a part of our community, right? So the community that we've built now, I think it's a testament to what we've been experiencing over the many few years, right? My program definitely, I felt like after, a couple years here, or maybe a year only, right? I was able to leave my full-time job. I was able to finally fully invest here and be here full-time, right? And that was such a scary jump for me to leave my base job and my full-time job. But I'll never forget what you said. You can have the same risk of that job, but you would just be left without anything, right? But if you run the business, at least you have control of what you do next, and you're not stuck in any position yourself. You have the power, and I sense, to dictate. And that really felt secure to me, right? Because I know myself. I knew that if I invested in myself and, again, trusted for your advice and your experience, that we would make it out, Fast forward again, we're rocking and rolling. The business is doing well, and we ended up working pretty smoothly. Pandemic hits. That's a whole nother probably tale we can talk about of recovering through the pandemic. But we went through our ups and downs, right? And there were moments of uncertainty. There were moments of very the deep despair for me and for you, and we were like so so chaotic the whole situation was, but we made it through there, right? Which again, now we're here. It's 2012. We're in a whole nother splay of different things, which again we don't have to go into. But again, the whole world at a lot of times can be so chaotic, right? It can be such a dire situation sometimes if you think about all of it at once. But again, this is the great part of coming here to the mats, coming to a place like this where you put that all aside, you come here, you take the services, you practice whatever you want to practice, and then you come in and you get to have a place where community is not focusing on all those aspects and just trying to get better. Everyone's just trying to get better, right? So now, again, the services building off of what we did from just the initial program of just like a jiu-jitsu class here and there, turning into a Muay Thai class, boxing, eventually your meditation services and everything. Now we've started expanding into the yoga side of things, right? And the yoga side of things is where me and you didn't have as much experience, right? We were both very, again, I think we both agreed that yoga is good, but we just didn't have the experience, right? We weren't the ones who went out of our way to practice, but we realized that there is a demand, there is a need for it. So we decided to expand the yoga program. So now the yoga program is still probably like the newest of our services, right? In a sense, but we're continuing to grow. Yesterday, we just had our Zen Days event, and, I felt it was a great success. It was definitely something that we've been improving on. Zen Days is a 1-day retreat we've offered here for the last 3 years, right? And we've grown a lot from it. So that part of it, I definitely would invite everyone to check out our next one, because after yesterday, I really felt like we're finding our groove. We're finding a really good ability to service people and like really be efficient with this process. And the Zen Days, just like it says, it's Zen Days to try to get you in that Zen mode for the day. And maybe later down the line we could do more. But again, the Zen Days experience, for me, I felt it was great. Well, I mean, how did you feel about yesterday, Joe?
I was going to say a shout out to Stephanie and Nirel, who really led a fantastic team of individuals. And again, probably a podcast that we could do definitely. Talking about all the different instructors that came who teach here and presented. And, one of the comments that really stuck out was someone who was saying, thank you for having this, because the craziness out there, the moment I walked in the door, I could tell it was something different from the way people greeted me to as I come in, get a little breakfast. Like the whole energy of that space was inviting and welcoming.
You felt it.
It was a moment to retreat, to get away from all of that craziness. And I really appreciate our commitment and our openness that, every quarter we're trying to do something, whether it's cacao ceremony, whether it's Zen Days. And then we have all of the monthly offerings, right? We have a collaboration with Oceanside Healing for people who are experiencing grief.
Pacifica, right?
Oceanside. We meet at the library, which, again, wow, our county library system, what a fantastic Nirel and I offer a restorative yoga and sound experience at the libraries. And they've made a commitment to people's wellness and offering us a space. So if they can't come here, we're actually going to them. So grief support with Oceanside Healing, library events. You can look on the San Mateo County Library event page and find us there. So a shout out, again, many thanks to San Mateo County Library System, as well as Shell Dance is another monthly thing. And after the pandemic, that was huge. Shell Dance actually got us the opening with San Mateo County Library. There was a librarian who had attended the Shell Dance.
You never know, right?
Right.
You never know.
It's amazing. But if you have not been to Shell Dance Orchid Gardens, and a shout out to Nancy and the team there, she's got a wonderful team of people. It is amazing. The life of the greenhouse just has this synergistic effect with the yoga and with the sound. And then that led us into some events with Casa Om, where we do a spring and fall equinox and the winter and summer solstice celebrations. So
A lot of things going on.
Incredible. And out of that also came the cacao ceremonies, and because there was a group of sound healers there. Hello to Hyan, Ceci, and Eric. And being able to, put some of these larger sound healing events together.
Yeah, the growth has been amazing. Just hearing from all the opportunities that have popped up within the recent years, with you really committing and going and putting that out there for everyone to take on that offer of your service has been huge. Again, it's a lot already just thinking about all those events, but you go over to the website, themats.co. You can see all those events now. So definitely a little plug for the website. Check those informations out. You can see it through the Tempe DC website as well. It's all connected into it. So you'll be able to see some of those services that Joe offers if any of our team is interested. And again, I'm sure you're going to hear it from one of these newsletters or one of these email blasts that we've had to put out. But, we definitely try to make these regular things where we have these services. And we're trying to continue to make them grow, right? Again, I think it's a good point you made is these offerings that we have, they just lead to so many opportunities that you just don't know. I remember the way we got to PDR, right? Again, PDR is Peninsula del Rey Senior Assisted Living Home, right? And, we teach over there as well. We have services for the seniors in our community who want to move and be active and want to either work meditation and sound healing, or they want to do a little bit of a fitness class, right? So I think that one, we were able to utilize that by doing a free clinic for our middle school, right? Because shout out to Oliver Quesada over at was it FDR Elementary, one of the local elementary schools, and one of the parents was seeing the services we offered and ended up taking us up for that, and Lorana, one of the owners there, or the managers at PDR, she was like really interested in that. So you just never know. Again, going back to opportunities with whether it's going to Zion and going into like conversations or little things, the more you kind of open yourself up and you speak on the things that you're passionate about, the things that I think that's what we both agree on is, if we continue to put it out there on the universe, it seems to manifest in itself, right? It doesn't happen if you're keeping everything to yourself like I was doing for so many years. I was just kind of keeping everything bottled up. But the moment I started to let everything go, the world opened up, right? Everything started becoming available. The opportunities were there. And now we have this, right? Which is, again, huge. Like we're here in the mats right now, located under the bigger space, which we've been operating since 2018 now. And it's just been nothing but, exponential growth and really great opportunities for us to continue to proceed. We've gone through so many different clients, so many different situations, arrangements with the space, and we're still growing, right? We're still continuing to try to refine the process and refine our services here. So all together, I'm very appreciative, for the work you do, Joe, and especially with holding down the business aspect of things and being able to operate these things on the business side of things. Because on behind the scenes, people, one of my friends told me great was like, people don't need to know how Disneyland works. It just needs to work, right? Like that's the case of us, right? We're like, we try to provide this place so people can just come, take the service and enjoy. But all this back end stuff is where like we're pulling our hair out sometimes. We're like stressing. We're going back and forth, right? But that joy that people get from coming in, like talking about this, it just makes it all worth it. It's just that feeling, okay, we're doing something right. These people really have a place that they can call home, a community they can rely on, and people that they can like familiarize themselves with, socialize with, and get out of this normal place. Like I think one of the things that I read recently is like people need a third place, right? They can't just have home and work, right? Home and work is such a dire situation if you just have those two. They need a third place where they can go, they can just be outside of that career aspect and outside of their home, like where they just sometimes get stir crazy, and they need that third place. So I'm glad this can be a third place for a lot of people, and they can come here and find that, okay, I can just be me. I can just do what I want, have some fun, and maybe learn something too, or maybe get better in some way or some fashion, right? So plenty of things here. Again, you guys have heard me talk about it plenty, right? And you can hear now from Joe from his perspective as to what he's offering and what he's doing. And again, I think that's something that I want to do better at, is like explaining to the community more so about the back end of what we're doing here, and like showing like, hey, there's more to it than just, showing up for class, right? There's a whole operation going back here that we're thinking about all of you, thinking about everyone who's coming in and how we can better the services here. And that's going to take trial and error sometimes. Sometimes we're not going to get it right. Sometimes we'll hit the nail on the head. But I think that's something that has been persistent with us, that we're continuing to try to get better every moment. We're trying to make sure we're doing something that's productive, and we're not going to be giving up anytime soon. I think we both agree, like, we've been through a lot of storms, right? And we've been able to weather through them. And now looking forward, seeing what we're looking to try to build here, right? We're trying to look at expanding this downstairs space and getting it to operate at a higher functional ability. Maybe, again, potentially look at other classes and services. And the other stuff that we're looking forward to, Joe, like, you have some plans yourself, right, for what you want to do moving forward, right? Can you share with the folks about what we want to get working towards in the future?
So I think right now, first that's really coming to fruition is the website and the videos. And last year, there just seemed to be a lot of signs of, get your stories out there. So being able to tell about some of the adventures that I've had, some of these moments where it was like the universe just kind of opened these doors one right after another. And okay, let's share that, because life can be an adventure. And I love that word, persistence.
Right.
Yes, that, that is one thing that we have committed to.
Core value for us, right?
It is that, trying to persist to provide healing, a place where people can really find some health and wellness for themselves. So aside from that, we've got some exciting things happening with the yoga program that we're, hoping to expand that even more. And it would be great to continue, and we've made that commitment to these retreats and quarterly events where, we can have these ceremonies that help people just kind of let go of, whatever stress, anxiety, hurts, they may be having, and to find some of that healing and take in that energy that's, going to help them renew and nurture their well-being.
Yes, and I want to kind of extend that invite for guys who, especially those who are training with me, to try to explore and see these services that they're offering. Joe's offering, the yoga instructors, because I think we have some events planned pretty soon that we're going to try to use to collaborate with the martial arts and the yoga side of things. But again, in the meantime, try to see yourself if you can go into trying maybe a sound healing class, maybe a yoga class, or one of these events that we offer. Again, it's if you have the time and availability, or you're interested, don't be shy. Joe's around the gym all the time. Don't be afraid to ask him. I'm sure he's more than happy to share his knowledge and his experience with everyone here. So again, for those of you who are still on the fence with these events, don't be shy. Ask around, and you'll see that it's nothing but warm welcomes. It's nothing but really just positive energy and trying to get you guys to be better and help yourselves in some type of way, right? So again, Joe, thanks for the time today. Again, I'm looking forward to doing this again. We'll talk about more things. We can go over anything else that you want to offer. I want you to let folks know how to find you and anything else that you want to plug that's coming up.
So some of the events that, again, coming back monthly to Shell Dance, which is the last Sunday of the month. Grief Support Group is the last Saturday of the month. You'll find all these events out on themats.co. Email is joe@themats.co. Let's see, Grief Support, Shell Dance. We've also got the summer equinox coming up in June with Casa Om, the cacao ceremony in July. So a plug for that.
Yep.
Zen Days will be coming back up in October.
Right.
There's
a lot of things.
Ton of events. There are a huge amount of library events coming up April, May, and June. And that I got to send you out to the San Mateo County Library for, because there's still quite a list of those, although you will find us consistently the first Thursday of the month over at Sharp Park Library in Pacifica, and the last Thursday of the month down in Redwood City at North Fair Oaks Library. So we're part of their wellness program there every month.
And last plug, summer camp coming up this June for all the youth out there and all the parents who are listening. Summer camp is still open for enrollment if you guys are interested in coming out for that. But again, plenty of things that are coming up for us. Joe will have you back on here again. We're going to highlight some of these other aspects of our services and what we do here. So for those of you on YouTube, feel free to comment and ask any questions if you have anything for us. And if you have any other questions in person, feel free to ask.
And one last thing, sorry, I forgot. I just want to put a plug out to Oceanside Healing.
Yes.
Because they've got a great program over there where we also do sound healing and acupuncture as a collaborative appointment or session.
Yep.
So you can check out Oceanside Healing if you're looking for a private session. We've also done just sound healing or sound healing and massage. So want to put that plug in for Oceanside Healing. They've been great to work with.
Yes, thank you, Joe, and then thank you all those who helped us along the way. Those part of our team and all those who we've collaborated with. Hope to continue that and just have nothing but more growth and more opportunities together, so that we can continue to service the community and do more for everyone. So again, appreciate Mark for the camera work today, and Joe, thank you for being out here. Everyone, we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Take care, Joe. Thank you.